Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Major, and this is the Biblical Cinematic Universe. And this is the first episode brought to you from my new home back in Amherstburg, Ontario. Very excited. And I want to start a new series, which I thought would be really cool and interesting. So there'll be Biblical Cinematic Universe, which reviews Bible films. But these series of videos will be called Famous Bible Actors, which will basically take actors that are well known in the pop culture medium and just look at some of the ways that they acted in different Bible movies. So I thought the first episode would be in honor of Christopher Plummer, who recently passed away. So with each video, what I'll do is I'll mention 3 or 4 pop culture movies that you might know the actor from, and then tell a little bit about his performance in a biblical movie. So, in this case, Christopher Plummer, you would know him either from as Mr. Von Trapp from The Sound of Music. Probably that's his most famous role for most people. He also was in the villain with a one-eyed patch in Star Trek VI, the Shakespearean speaking Klingon. And so that's my pop culture one. And then he played Ebenezer Scrooge in The Man Who Invented Christmas, which was sort of a story about an imaginative retelling of how Charles Dickens wrote Ebenezer Scrooge and Christmas. And he most recently was, in a couple years back, was nominated for an Academy Award for the movie All the Money in the World, which in that movie he was cast at the last minute and they had recast him. So those are kind of some of his more famous movies, and he's done a lot of Broadway and Shakespeare, and of course he's a Canadian. So in biblical movies, I can find 3 that he did. He was in this movie, Jesus of Nazareth, which is a 6-hour miniseries, and we'll talk about it many times. And he played King Herod in that. King Herod the second, the one who attacks John the Baptist. And then he was the narrator of this movie, which is called The Gospel of John, which is a word-for-word adaptation of the Bible story. But at least the characters talk, and so the narrator, who is supposed to be John, played by Christopher Plummer, he does anything in the Bible story that's kind of more of a narration type thing and not like a person speaking. And then most recently, I think this was probably deliberate, he did the voice of King Herod for the animated movie The Star, which is about the nativity story, but told from the animal's point of view. So the one I'm going to focus on is his performance as Herod in Jesus of Nazareth. So in that movie, it's a 6-hour miniseries from the 70s, and it's fantastic. It's my favorite Jesus movie of all time. Not just because even with that length, it's just so epic and the scale so epic. In the movie Jesus of Nazareth, the way he plays Herod was comical. It was funny. It was manipulative. It was great. For those who don't know the whole story, in the movie Jesus of Nazareth, King Herod is fascinated with John the Baptist, the character of John the Baptist, but at the same time he is also kind of has this manipulative wife who, technically speaking, is his brother's sister. So yes, he understands he's living in sin, but he kind of likes it too, and he likes the attention that he has from his. But he also is gone to the point, at least in this point in the movie version, he's gone to the point where he's kind of starting to get ready to move on. And there's a kind of a comical line where you see him kind of looking through the curtains, and he's kind of fawning over Salome, which is Herodias's daughter. And so that brings us, of course, to the famous scene later on where you have Salome dance for King Herod, and Salome does this dance, and then King Herod is kind of lustfully moved by it, and so he says, whatever you want, even up to half your kingdom. And then she says, I want the head of John the Baptist. So that's the scene. That's kind of gives you a brief overview. Interestingly enough, he does not meet Jesus in Jesus at Nazareth, even though in the Bible story, that King Herod did meet Jesus toward the end of his life. That's the final scene you see him is after John the Baptist, when John the Baptist kind of dies, and he's kind of used as this transitional character to, and how the story of Jesus begins, because that's kind of it. It kind of starts with this idea of John the Baptist in terms of or introducing the adult Jesus, and his performance in it was great. I think he's one of the best biblical villains of all time in terms of acting wise, and I think that what I take away from that character's performance is and I really liked is that duality of, you can see that although you can almost see that when he was hearing John the Baptist in prison, that you had this thought in your head of, is it possible that this version of King Herod would have repented if not for the fact that his lust for Salome was stronger than his desire to make things right with the Lord, and with John the Baptist as well, because he seems to be like torn between his wanting the acceptance of the people around him, but also torn between his own desires. He's a great actor. Christopher Plummer, I applaud him. Amazing actor. And so I'm just giving you a little bit taste of the performance you give in Jesus Nazareth. And as I said, narrator in Gospel John, and also King Herod in The Star, which is a different King Herod. It's the one that chased Jesus. That would be this King Herod's father. And so he's one of the famous actors in the biblical cinematic universe. Thank you very much, and we'll have and next time we'll talk about how Batman was in the biblical cinematic universe. I said Batman. Thank you.